the morning where we go live on our Facebook, on our YouTube, and we say a very good morning to Mr. Nico Kleynhans. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to the listeners and also to those in the studio right now. The first time I visited the studio with Breakfast with Friends, I walked in, a Christian radio station, and there were two gentlemen doing PT exercises on the floor. I think it was called the plank was the exercise you were doing,
Yeah.
and you were inviting listeners to join in. Now, that confused me a little bit because I remembered the first dominee I ever met of the Hervormde Kerk, who used to wear a black suit and very serious voice. And now I'm here with people who are not that serious. And then I thought of my Presbyterian minister that I knew when we changed denominations, and then of Paul Verreyn, the young pastor that I met. And even he did not do physical exercises in the congregation. But I realized, okay, let's see what happens. And within the years, I met some of the other presenters on the Breakfast with Friends. And I remember one particular woman who had an incredible voice. And I often wondered why she didn't record that voice, because it was so melodious and it was different, way the gift that she had. And obviously, over the years, I began to realize that there was something in common with everybody at this particular studio, Breakfast with Friends included. And the common factor was that you have a love of people. And I think that for me is special. And you have a desire to serve the Christian community. And what I also realize is that there's a lot more that goes into making the show possible than many people realize. And watching the two of you here in the mornings, how busy you are and how that music covers all the other work you have to do just to get the show together. But I've chosen a couple of comments that I get from listeners, and just to give you an idea of what happens in the background and the effect that it has on listeners' lives. And one particular person that contacted me recently was one of those gentlemen who believes in doing things himself. He is about to retire, and he realized that he can take a third of his pension up front, and then the rest he wanted to turn into a monthly income stream. So he went off to SARS and he asked SARS, can he take a third up front? And they told him yes, but he asked the wrong question.
Oops.
He said, can I take a third? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But what he should have asked was, how much tax am I going to pay?
Oh, yes, because that's a big.
So when his family said, you better go and talk to me,
Yeah.
because they heard on CCFm, Breakfast with Friends.
Okay.
Well, I then showed him that had he followed what he wanted to do, he would have paid a tax bill of 850,000. And the mere fact that he listened to the show, we were able to cut the costs down and reduce what he was paying by 700,000 rand.
Really?
So that was a worthwhile benefit for him, because he listened to a show, he took some advice, and he saved a lot of money. Then the other calls I get are often when there's abuse, and you know my attitude towards abuse. I get very angry when I see this. And so a listener had found that when her spouse died, family moved into her house. Basically, they invaded her house.
Yo.
And they made her life so miserable that she had to move out. So now she was homeless. They were there, and the authorities weren't prepared to step in and protect her. And she listened, made a phone call, and we finally kicked some people hard, so that they're now going to give her back her home. They're going to get rid of the squatters, and she's going to have protection. And again, that's because somebody listened to the show, heard something, and decided, I need to take action. And one of my fun stories was a listener who, with his wife, has rented a home for 20 years because they were afraid to buy their own home. They could afford to, but they were just afraid.
Right, it was mine.
And over a 6-year period, talking, they finally bought and moved into their own home a few months ago. And now they're able to celebrate and discover what we've been trying to say to them for 6 years, the joy of owning your own home. And again, it's a changed life because they listened. And then lastly, for me, one of the sad things, I often get phone calls from people of both genders, and it would say like, I'm broken, my marriage has ended, and I've lost hope.
Sure.
And especially if the surviving parent who makes the phone call has got young kids that they have to look after. And what I like about that, if I can put it that way, is that they've taken the step of getting a team around them, because part of their problem is finance, and that's where it come in. But also part of their problem is the feeling of feeling lost.
Yes.
And then they've got to find a new way of getting the support from their communities and rebuilding. So Breakfast with Friends does make a difference. And this radio station does make a difference. And that we have to celebrate, because it means we are making changes in our society. And our community desperately needs that kind of support.
Wow.
Sure. Thank you, Nico. Thank you for highlighting that for us. And it really is our heart here at CCFm to see people's lives changed for eternity, but also while you're living on this side of eternity, that you can find help, that you can find hope, and that you can move forward and not backwards.
Absolutely.
Enjoy your life is what you're living in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Nico, thank you so much, sir. We really appreciate you, and thanks for sharing.
Okay, sure.